All right, I wanted to record this technique that I'm learning basically by asking ChatGPT tons of questions because I don't know how to code. But basically what I'm doing is I have a landscape, and I have on that landscape I have a bunch of cubes, and I put the sun in, and I wanted to see where shading occurred to make a heat map that could then be later used in QGIS. So this was the simplest way to do it, and I've had a lot of problems getting it to run, but basically ChatGPT came up with this script, and we've kept refining it and refining it. The resolution is now 64, still takes a while to run, and once you run it, what this does is it creates a CSV file for the heat map. And so you can see here it's come up with this CSV file with all these numbers, but somewhere in here, as you can see here, are the cubes shadows. So there's 1, there's 2 there, somewhere around here's another one, 3. These lower values where the ray tracing is bouncing light off. And there should be one at this corner. There it is. Interesting that it's a different value, maybe because it's farther from the sun, and then you get the same value here. So that is the heat map that corresponds to, and let me make this smaller so you can see it better. Let me zoom out. So those are the cubes that you see. If I move over here and close this, those are those cubes. There's the center one's shadow. Then it looks like the cells are, yeah, they're the same size cubes. So it's all the same cell size, as you can see. And the script is picking up the dimension of this ground plane. That's one of the things it does. So however you set it, you don't have to go and specify, because it's going to pick that up. Calculate the exposures, and I'm only using one frame, but it generates this heat map. And then once I have this CSV file, ChatGPT gave me another script to turn it into a PNG, and that script looks like this. It has to be set the same resolution or you get an error message, and that spits out a PNG. So when I go and run this, and make sure, let me go back into here and get rid of this one here because that was earlier. So this is the CSV file that it's picking up, saving it in the same folder as the Blender file. So when I run this, it will create that file again. It should. Let me refresh here. There it is. And when you click on it, now you can see those shadow dots. So that is corresponding to this image here. And then what you can do is put that out as a, using shading. We can come in here and we can say, all right, well, we don't want to use the principled BSDF that makes this plane look green. What we want to do is delete that and go to and add a texture and make it a image texture, and drop that in and connect these, and then go and open that. There it is, Solar Heat Map. Open that image. Now, why is it so far off? That's a very good question, and I don't know the answer to that, because the shadows are there. If we look at the sun and where the sun is shining, those shadows are being cast off, and maybe it's just not oriented properly. And so to do that, you would have to go into UV editing and select the object here, on that, and then guess it goes into editing mode. Go to UV, and it should be selected. So there we go. Come in here and say, I want to smart unwrap this. And having unwrapped that, I would have thought that, yes, well, it's not perfect, is it? Things are a little closer for how the shadows are casting, but I still don't think it's completely unwrapped properly. And it might be that when we take this, maybe the thing needs to be rotated by 180 degrees, for example, and you'd have to see it looking at object mode, looking at rendering. And I don't know if well, see, I can't do anything with it when it's in object mode. You have to be in edit mode, and only then, but you can see it now. So then if I rotate it, does it get any closer? So it's really hard to know what's the right way. But that's basically how this thing works, so that you're using a texture that acts as a heat map, and it says, well, those are the shadows. Now, we can play around with this and see if moving the objects makes a difference. Like this one here, if we move it, let's move things right to the corners. So let's move this here, and let's move this block here, and let's move this block here, and this one, yes, this block here, and let's move this one into the center like that. And let's also make sure that they're all down on the table. Okay. That one's okay. Whoops. I need to get this one. I can't grab it. G and Z. And this one here. And that one there. All right, so what do they look like when we look at the object without, let's go back to shading. If we get rid of, oh, where did it even go? That's weird. Oh, here. So if we get rid of this and we replace it with a material, let's get rid of that completely. Now we go to a new material and make it white or slightly off yellow green with a principled BSDF, and then look at where the shadows are cast. And you can see that the sun, where it's positioned, is casting these shadows. We'll make them fairly long. So these ones don't show any shadows at all over here, but this one does. So let's move this back here, and we'll see if that's reflected at all in this. The sun up a little bit, then make it longer. All right, so that is what the sun is casting in terms of shading. And so having that, let's save the file, and we'll go back to scripting, and we'll go back to our generate CSV file and see if there's any correspondence. I'm going to go back in here and eliminate this CSV, which I have to close in the spreadsheet. Don't save. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, and now I will run this script again, and it's going to take a bit because it's at 64, the resolution. So you see it says not responding. So let me pause our video until it does. It usually takes a few minutes. Okay, so we're back, and it must have created what we want. Let's see if we, oh, 6:48, yes, that is the time now. This one is old, so let's get rid of that. This is the new solar heat map, and when we open it and look at it, we see that down in the corner here, that's one of the blocks. And there should be another one, yep, right up there. That's another shadow, and there should be one in the center. There it is, it stands out like that. So this is part of the heat map there. And there is one at the far corner, as we expected. I'll be right there, but you can start if you want. Okay. Yeah. All right, so that's what we have. Yep. So we have that, and then we need to generate from this a heat map script for the image from this CSV, and we go like that, and that's created, and you can see it in the folder when we refresh it. There it is, the solar heat map. When we look at it, it's got these things in the corner as we expected, and now when we map that onto this by going to our shading and selecting this and saying, no, we don't want the principled shader anymore. What we want, oh, I shouldn't have done that, sorry. What we want is to get rid of this and then add a image texture. And all we need to do is to find the solar heat map. And now we see it did work. And it is mapped pretty much correctly with the sun. Or does it? Oh, there's that one and that one and that one. Yeah. I guess that did work. Because you just have a little bit of shade under there. All right, so that is working. All right, we'll come back later and try a different method.